So my name is Jeremy. I'm from the Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy, so IECP, if you've heard of it. We are an institute who mainly does policy analysis and policy recommendations and energy modeling for the most part. We are mainly running on, so we are non-profit. We are running on EU-funded projects under Horizon 2020. It's finishing now. LIFE program and Horizon Europe mainly. And we also have a few contracts directly with the Commission, or we do some analysis works for Greenpeace, European Climate Foundation, and a couple of others. It depends on what they are looking for. So today I'm here to tell you about the NECPlatform project that we are doing with Energy Cities. Today it should have been Melanie presenting, but she couldn't make it, so she asked me yesterday if I could cover, so be indulgent. And it was mentioned already by Jonathan. There are many, we have many things in common, basically. So please. Next. What is the project about? It's about supporting 6 EU member states in setting up and managing the multi-level dialogue platforms set by the Article 11 that was presented earlier. We are focusing on this one, not any other. And foster vertical and horizontal integration of the national energy and climate policies. So I won't go back to the Article 11, it was already presented. Just to know that it's written in small, but it could be bigger, is that the guidance to member states for the update of the NECPs mentions the project, and it's already a good step. It was the case almost from the beginning of the project, thanks to the advocacy work of Energy Cities and my colleague who is representing IECP in the project, that is Julia Pizzini. Next. So how do we work on that? Basically, we have the national level that does the planning and the implementation, and then the local level is mostly at so they do the implementation, but also the monitoring and evaluation. And what we try is to be in the middle of all this and put all these stakeholders together around the table to channel what should be channeled. Most of the time it is top down. We've been talking about that earlier. We are trying to bring some bottom up in this, having representatives from the cities and from municipalities, regions. I'm also looking at the notes that Melanie had so that I don't forget stuff. And yes, we are trying to put everybody around the table, as it should be the case, as defined in the Article 11. We defined multi-level on 2 scales. The vertical one that is the typical policy making process and policy implementation process. So you will have the EU, the national, the regional, the local. And the horizontal integration is at the same level, having different silos represented. So you will have the energy, the climate advocacy, the mobility, all of this, trying to bring them in. Next, please. Who is in it? So at EU level, it's Energy Cities and us, IECP. And on national level, we have Zero in Portugal, we have Regea in Croatia, and Effect in Bulgaria. Energy Cities is also representing the project and implementing it in France. We have the Agenda 21 coordination in Italy, and Energy Cities Romania in Romania. So you can see that it's regarding the implementation projects, the implementation countries, it's overlapping a bit with the EUCityCalc, and it's there are quite some synergies already. I could see from Jonathan's presentation. Next, please. So, among other actors, why cities are important? Well, the national plans need to be grounded and include local data, and there is a need for a tangible local elements to ensure that national plans are not out of touch with the reality. Cities are also an essential channel between national levels and citizens. We could hear also about the Article 10 and the public consultations. We can see, especially, for example, in Romania, that the bottom-up initiatives is often led by the cities or representatives of cities. For example, Energy Cities Romania was leading in this bottom-up initiative and this participative process in Romania. And well, the cities are also responsible for a huge part of the implementation. Is there any way you can take a bit bigger? Can you see what's written? But anyway, I can comment it. So where do we stand in March 24? So if you see on this brochure that is almost up to date, it was made next week. So we had 2 dialogues in France, 3 in Italy, 4 in Croatia, 4 in Romania, and 4 in Bulgaria, and 2 in Portugal. 4 in Romania, knowing that 2 weeks ago there was only 1. It's been very long, but the local team has been rather persistent. And on our last meeting, they told us, yeah, this month we've done 3 dialogues. Great. You can see that in Portugal it's a bit more difficult, but it's also linked to the politics, the local politics. We know that they are going through elections. We've heard about it in the past weekend. There will also be elections in Croatia. There has been a reshuffle, a ministerial reshuffle in France, so it changed completely because, well, not completely, because the energy agency is still the same, but the ministry in charge of it changed from the ecological transition to the Ministry of Economy. So it's ever changing and it's slowing us down at some point. But what are the dialogue for? It brings together the relevant stakeholders, as I mentioned earlier, foster vertical and horizontal integration of energy and climate policies, become a privilege for a forum. I never know how to conjugate that. To discuss updated NECPs and help the member states to comply with the governance regulation. Small parenthesis on that. With IECP, we are also mandated by the Commission at the moment to do the impact assessment of the governance regulation. So it's a work in progress that we're doing together with the consultancy ICF, and there should be a report on our work by the end of the year. So. But in a nutshell, it comes back to what Jonathan was saying. It's not enough. It's not enough, and especially when we look at the overall coherence between the governance regulation and the related directives, there are some hiccups, and also in the reporting process that needs to be improved. So. After each dialogue, we surveyed the participants, and we see that the share of national decision makers versus local and regional ones in the dialogues. So it's per country, if I see it correctly, but you see that depending on the countries, there are more or less national decision makers. The 5th one is Bulgaria. And you can see that there is a bigger share national representatives. Also, you see in Croatia, and it's not random, because in these countries there is a big lead from the ministry to take ownership on the platforms. For example, in Croatia, the Ministry of Finance actually is eager to take over the lead on the dialogue platform at the end of the project. So it's quite a big thing. The same in Bulgaria. The last dialogue was co-organized between our partner and the Ministry of Energy, if I'm right. And everywhere it was presented as the ministry invites you. So they're really trying to take the blanket to them. And in a way, it's a good thing, because it shows that they are eager to take it over, which is one of our first goals in the project. So the draft NECPs, have they been submitted to the European Commission? And now they have been, all of them, submitted. And in two of them, the project is mentioned. So in Croatia and in Portugal. In the other ones, let's hope that in the final ones in June, if they submit it in June, it will be mentioned. And the NECPR from 2023, we have a mention in Bulgaria, Croatia, Italy, and Romania. So it's also quite a good sign. Next, please. So lesson learned. We need to fit to every country, so to tailor it. So in each country, we have a different context. We have a different organization. Actually, our first report in the project was presenting how the energy and climate governance was organized in each country. So we need to adapt to this different thing. The more we go, the more the platforms in the different countries look different. So in the format, but also in the regularity of the meetings, as I mentioned earlier. So, for example, in some countries, it will be more discussion panels. It will be one dedicated event branded as climate and energy dialogue. Some others will be a session in another event. For example, this is what Italy is trying to do at the moment. And for some other, like in Bulgaria, it will be embedded in a more ministerial structure. You need the right contacts and stakeholders who are legitimate. So ideally, we want people and organizations who are financially independent. And yes, with a good reach within their domain and a good overall credibility. Politics matter, and the dependence from political sphere, as I mentioned earlier as well. Right now, with the different elections, it's slowing things down, and it could be that in the end, where it was fast at first, for example, in Bulgaria, it will slow down after the elections if they don't find a consensus on a new coalition. So maybe in the coming 2 months, we will be stuck again as it was at the beginning of the project. Time will tell. Next, please. We need patience. So in Romania and Bulgaria, Romania, I have an anecdote on that because I was there the first dialogue with. So all the project partners were there together with the Ministry of Energy, and the person from the Ministry of Energy was a case study of sexism with our Energy Cities Romania partners, Lea, and he's done his presentation, and then Leah took half an hour to address point by point what he said and how they could contribute and how they could basically support the ministry in doing what they have to do. And he wasn't looking at her at all, and then he answered looking at everyone but her. And it was and she didn't give up, and in the end the message was conveyed. So it's one of the strongest example of patience I've seen in a meeting. So that was great. Persistence and regularity, especially in the way you communicate with different members of the stakeholders you want to have around the table. If you are not proactive, at some point they will simply give up and not answer anymore. So you need to keep in touch quite often. And see not in the right order. And then, well, yes, the flexibility and the need to adapt to the existing structures and the existing structures that are changing from one month to another, as we could see in different countries. You can read more in details about these in our first report where we presented the structures per country. We also made a whole analysis with also best practices we found all over the world, in Europe and also in Latin America, in Japan, and you can read about it more in detail in this report. And some of the remaining challenges, so the lack of trust and cooperation, I think it's a starting point from almost all the projects. Making the platform permanent beyond the NECP phase, well, we see that it's more advanced in some countries, but let's see if it stays that way. Convincing ministries to participate, that's the same. It works better than others in some countries. Lack of dedicated staff in ministries, and it's not only in ministries, it's at every level. All the staffs are burdened with the requirements from the national level, from EU level. It's a comment we are doing as well from the governance regulation perspective, with all the reporting that can be very heavy on the teams in cities and municipalities and regions. So it's ongoing work. Setting up dialogues takes a lot of resources. The tight deadlines to produce NECPs, this is the burden on the teams. Changing from top-down to bottom-up approaches, this is what we are trying to do. And convincing other stakeholders to remain engaged. And this is why we try to persist and stay to stimulate them. Next, please. And it's the last one. The work in progress right now. So on the climate and energy dialogues, we will replicate the program in 6 other countries. We don't know which ones yet, but basically it will be a tutoring program, one country tutoring another. And we will have a platform implementation guide that we will start drafting in June 24 to be ready by the end of the project, somewhere around June 25. I think we have still 1 year to go. And that will be it for me. So if you have any questions, I will try to answer my best. Thank you.